Hey guys, this is Daniel with 417 OC Detailing. Wanted to show you a... Damn, those birds are loud. I'm gonna shut that door. Hey guys, Daniel with 417 OC Detailing. Wanted to show you a first time ever seen triple pressure washer setup. Not just one, not just two, but three of one of the most affordable pressure washers on the market. These are $79 at Home Depot right now. And the nice thing about buying them at Home Depot is that if anything goes wrong, you can just bring it back, let them know, and a lot of times they'll end up giving you a new one, or you can finagle your way out of it. So 1 is none, 2 is 1, and 3 is 2. All right, so redundancy never hurts. I've got between these three pressure washers, I've got a gas 4 GPM pressure washer as well. I've got 2 air compressors. I've got 3 vacuums. So guys, it is important to have multiple things, not just if you're obsessive like me, but because it is important to keep the business running instead of spending an hour to go get a new pressure washer if one goes down. But anyway, we're going to see how, because 3 pressure washers, if they were $80 a piece, that'd be $240. Now you're going to spend a good amount of money on fittings, which I'm going to go over that with you. But I'll show you exactly how to set this up, and you'll have basically about 3.6 gallons per minute is my rough estimate. I haven't even tested it yet, but you're going to have over 3 gallons per minute for about $300 between the pressure washers and all the fittings. To get 3 gallons per minute, you either need a $500, $600, $700, $800 gas unit, or you need a 240 volt, $1,000 electric unit at least. It's just really hard to find. Now, I don't know the longevity of this because this is the first day I've ever had all 3 running. I do know multiple people that have had 2 for a long time, and you've got to have separate 20 amp breakers, or at least 15 amp breakers for each one. I do have separate breakers for all of them. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and test it out, see how it feels, and I've got all sorts of different tips. I've got 6 different tips that we're going to test out, so we're going to see exactly how it works. So yeah, stay tuned, and thanks for watching. All right, so first of all, let's go over all the connections I have. These are just M22 to male pressure washer hose 3/8 fittings. This is a ST2305 Suttner pressure washer gun. These are pretty good. This is a angled lance from Amazon. I'll post a link of, and this is just a pressure washer tip with a protective rubber shroud. Now this is the McKillen's Quick Connect pressure gauge. This thing is amazing. I'll have a link for that in the description. And then these are just 3-foot jumper hoses, these blue ones. I like blue, so eventually I'm gonna have an all blue pressure washer hose on my reel and everything, because my colors for my business are gray and blue. But anyway, this is a jumper hose. You need 3 identical lengths, and then very important, you need check valves. So these are each 3/8 inch check valves. As you can see, they are going directionally this way, all of them. And then these are pressure washer quick connect Y fittings. So this is to make as little interference with the pressure going out the hose as possible. And then we've just got another little jumper hose, and then it goes into my long hose, which is going into the gun. So long story short, and then all of my garden hose fittings are quick connect and connected down here. So none of that looks very pretty. This is a very temporary setup. I'm in the middle of moving shops, so we're out of the garage right now. But this is just to show you how 3 of them work. And eventually you could have them all on a shelf on a wall, like right there or back in the corner over here. But anyway, this is a temporary setup, and we're going to be in the shop soon as the lease gets signed. But anyway, this is just to show you how 3 of them work. We're going to go ahead and test it out now. Now, I will say, guys, one other thing that's very important is that you test your GPM of your garden hose coming in. So this is just a cheap little pressure gallons per minute water hose gauge. You can get these on Amazon. Probably, I don't remember what I paid. I'll put a link below. But I tested. I'm getting about 6.8 to 7 gallons per minute out of my hose. So that's perfectly enough to power these. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to turn on the water pressure, just like that. There might be a couple little leaks somewhere. The typical garden hose mender connectors that come with connectors are really bad, so I'm going to show you what exactly to use for that in a second as well. But anyway, let's go ahead and test this out. All right, so I've got a 6.5 40-degree orifice on here right now. That's probably about 950. Let me see what other sizes I have besides 6.5. So here you can see 40.065 or 40065. Here's a 5.5. Let's test that out. Okay, that's 1200 PSI. So I just decided we're gonna test the gallons per minute of the 5.5 and the 6.5. All right, we're gonna go ahead and show you the rinsing power with the 5.5 nozzle. Guys, this is incredible. So let's just compare it to one pressure washer with like a 3.0 nozzle. Okay, this is a 2.9, and I just shut 2 of the washers off. Let's test this out. Okay. That's not strong enough. That's only giving us about 700 PSI. Let me see what else I got. All right, so these 1800 PSI 1.2 GPMs come with a 1.7 orifice standard. So here's a 15 degree 1.7. Okay, with that one, we're getting about 1400 PSI. So let's go ahead and see how this rinses. Now, I know it's different because it's a 15 degree, but it's terrible. Not much water's coming out of here at all. You want to be real efficient, you need a lot of water coming through. So now let's test it out with 2 pressure washers. Okay, with 2 pressure washers, we're going to go with a 2.9, 40 degree. Actually, that's a little high PSI. We're at 1500. I'm going to switch it to a 3.0. Okay, here's a 3.0. Okay, we're at about 1400 PSI, but let's go ahead and see how it rinses. Way better, you know, almost like it's twice as good. So definitely 2 is great, and at this PSI, it's really not bad. Let me see what other tips I have besides the 3.0. I have a 4.0. Let's see how much PSI we get on that. Okay, it's about 1100, 1150. So with 2 Ryobi 1800 1.2s, you're going to want a 4.0 nozzle. It's a pretty good size for this, to give you for roughly 2.4 gallons per minute at 1100 PSI. Now we're going for all 3. All right, so here's a 5.5 orifice on 3 pressure washers. $1,200 PSI. Yeah, that's a lot of water. All right, so the 5.5 nozzle, 1200 PSI, insane rinsing power and speed. Your cleaning units on this are huge. We'll get the exact number once we get the GPM, but There we go. All right, guys, if you're new to pressure washers or you've not figured it out yet after watching a couple of these videos just like this, you gotta dial in your pressure washer. So pressure washers come standard with like really small orifice tips, like the Ryobi 1800 1.2 GPM. It comes with a 1.7. And by the way that you read that is just like this. So 15017. This is a 15-degree fan with a 1.7 orifice. Now this is a 40-degree fan with a 5.5 orifice. And then some metal ones will have it right on the tip where you'll see this is a 40.065. So I've got a 6.5 in the rubber and a 5.5 in the white. So as detailers, we don't need PSI to pressure wash cars. First of all, if you put too small of a PSI or too small of an orifice, creating too high of a PSI, like if I put this yellow one on here right now with all three connected, it will overload all those units and trip all three breakers, because that's way too much PSI to be pushed through a tiny little orifice. So that's the other reason why you need the right size. And to put it simply, just get a PSI gauge like this. McKillen's one is awesome. Just get a PSI gauge and change the orifice size to be close to 1,000 or 1,200 as you can. So if you're at 1,200 and if you're at 1,600 PSI and you want less PSI, you need to go up in orifice size. So let's say you were testing it and you used the standard 1.7 on a 1800 1.2 GPM, and you used a standard 1.7 orifice, just like this one here, and you were getting whatever it said, 1,600. Well, if you were to go to a 2.0, you'd probably be at like 1,400. And if you had lower PSI, you're gonna have higher GPM. So the correlation between the orifice size, the PSI, and the GPM is very linear. The higher the orifice size, the more GPM you get. Now, eventually you get to a point of diminishing return where you're at like 600, PSI, and that's gonna overload your pressure washers as well. So you can overload them by having too small of an orifice and too big of an orifice. So there's a sweet spot. All that to say, we're going to dial it in the simplest way that I tell everyone to do it, whether they're doing a single ear, double connection of a pressure washer, dual, or triple like I'm doing right here, is just stick to 1,000, 1,200 PSI. So we got the 6.5, which is around 950 or 1,000, and we got the 5.5 that's around 1,200. So the next thing we're going to do is a bucket test. The way bucket test works is simple. I've teared out this bucket with this lid to be 2 pounds, 2.05 pounds on my scale. Now each gallon of water weighs 8.34 pounds. So what I'm going to do is put in the 5.5 orifice, put it in this hole, spray it for exactly a minute, and we're going to see exactly how much weight of water goes, and then we're going to test it with the 6.5, and we're going to put those numbers up on the screen, and I'll say them for you. That way we can figure out exactly what we've achieved with a triple Ryobi 1800 PSI 1.2 GPM setup for less than $300. So stay tuned. All right, guys, the bucket is currently empty. We're on the 5.5 orifice. What I'm going to do is start the timer on my watch, exactly 5 seconds. Start the pressure washer in there, and then I'm gonna stop it exactly a minute and 5 seconds. Then we're gonna weigh it, dump it out, do the 6.5, and do the math. So here we go. All right, 5.5 done. All right, and this is what I'm talking about these crappy connectors. That's why these are leaking a tiny bit, is because I'm gonna shore this up and get some way better connectors. So I'll post a link and a picture of the connectors to actually use for these, and then you can make your custom size hose to fit everything that you need. But you don't want to use these because the pressure's real low and they're just not great. So what you want to use is these. All right, we emptied the bucket. Gonna put the lid back on. Switch out the tip. Okay, this is a 6.5 tip. All right, we're gonna go ahead and reset the stopwatch. And Okay. All right, the 6.5 got to 28.8. All right, now I just want to mention something. The pitch of the pressure washers changes. Now, the one thing I'm missing is I don't have an amperage clamp meter. I forgot to grab one. I wanted to test one just like Keeve and Josh do. But let's see how they sound. Because there is a difference I can tell. First of all, we're going to do the 6.5. Seems like they're working hard. And the 6.5, once again, is... That's the 950 PSI. Now with the 5.5... They just sound better with the 5.5, I think. So I wonder how the 6.0 would sound. Yeah, it's producing higher PSI at 1200 PSI, but they sound happier. So that's kind of something you have to just kind of get the feel of. It's kind of like when you're driving a manual car, you can just feel when your car is ready to shift. So I think I'm going to stick with the 5.5 for longevity if I stick with the triple, and I'm going to recommend do the same. Now, if you do have a 6.0, you might be able to test that. But as you'll see when I go over the numbers here in a second, there's not a big difference between 5.5 and 6.0 or 6.5 as far as the GPMs go. So we're just going to stick to the 5.5, I think, with this nozzle.
I want to mention as well, one of the main failure points of these electric pressure washers is the standards or stock GFCI plug that comes on them. A lot of guys have great results just snipping off the end and putting on a standard three-prong grounded plug. You can still plug that into a power strip that has GFCI protection, but it seems like the GFCI plug that comes with them is just junk. So go ahead and snip that off and use a standard.
All right, guys, let's go over numbers. So with the 5.5 orifice on the pressure washer, we were getting about 1200 PSI, and that one totaled, now the bucket in the lid weighed 2.05 pounds. So the water added total was 28.3 pounds. So subtracting the bucket weight was 26.25 pounds. Divide that by 8.34 and you get 3.15 GPMs out of the 5.5 nozzle. So 5.5 nozzle, 3.15 gallons per minute. Now out of the 6.5 nozzle, with the bucket weighing 2.05 pounds and the total weight of the bucket and the water being 28.8 pounds, subtracting the tare difference was 26.75 total. Divide that by 8.34 and we got 3.2 gallons per minute. Now with the higher pitched whine and making it push out only 950 PSI to get the 3.2 GPMs, I'm not going to use the 6.5 nozzle. I'm going to not use it. I'm just going to stick to the 5.5 on the triple setup. And then we can deduce if we had a 6.0 nozzle, it would be about 28.6 pounds total with the water and the bucket, just because it's the happy medium between those two, which would be a total of 25.55 of water weight only, which would be 3.18 GPMs. So there's a chance, and that would be around 1100 PSI, because the 5.5 nozzle is 1200 PSI, 3.15 gallons per minute. 6.0 you can assume would be around 1100 PSI with 3.18 gallons per minute. And the 6.5 was only around 950 PSI with 3.2 gallons per minute. So with the additional 0.05 gallons per minute between the 6.5 and the 5.5, I'm going to stick to just the 5.5. So with that said though, do I recommend triple pressure washer? Yeah, absolutely. If you have a breaker box right in your garage where you can set up individual breaker circuits and receptacles to each pressure washer, and you're in a shop setup, this is a whole lot cheaper. Now, the other alternatives for pressure washers is getting a Kronzla for, $1,000. That's going to give you about 2 gallons per minute. You need 1.5 of those to get the performance I'm getting out of these. The other option is to do like 2 active 2.0s, which a dual active 2.0 setup is $1,200. You could get 2 max flow 2.5 GPMs, which are really about 2. That'll get you about 3.8 to 4 gallons per minute, but that'll be $1,000. So this is the absolute cheapest. Again, it's 80, 160, 240. You got to get You got to get a couple fittings, a couple check valves. You're going to be about $300, but you're going to have 3.15 gallons per minute with a 5.5 orifice. So with that said, if you like this type of video, go ahead and give me a subscribe and follow, because I'm going to be showing up a dual air compressor setup soon with an extra auxiliary tank. I'm going to be doing reviews on all sorts of polishers, products. I've got big plans. I have my own product line, my own polisher line. So, I just wanted to show you what I'm doing for a pressure washer setup. Now, if you don't want to run gas, which gas has its own issues. I mean, you got a lot more noise. They're not total start-stop, which these are all total start-stop. There's a lot more maintenance on them. Like I said, if you play your cards right, you can just buy one of these from Home Depot and just return it. And buy a new one eventually, because all of these have a life cycle. I don't expect these to last 10 years, but I do expect them to last at least 6 months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years. I don't know. It's nice that they're total start-stop. It's nice that I've got them dialed in with the right, like whine of the pump, so they're not working too crazy hard. Like it sounded like it was working too hard with the 6.5. So that means it probably had higher amps. Again, I don't have an amp meter clamp, so unfortunately I can't show you if that was 14.8 compared to 13.2 or what, but it did sound like it and you could kind of tell. So with that in mind, guys, I highly recommend this, at least doing the dual. You can check out Cars with Key video on the dual 1800 PSIs, or you can do the dual you can do the dual 1200 PSI, 1.8 gallons per minute, and get about the same performance out of two of them. But I couldn't find those in the store, and then you only have two, which is different than three. Ultimately, whether you go with two of those, three of these, you're at about the same cost, and you're going to get the same performance. So you can't go wrong with either of them. Check out Cars with Key dual 1.8 GPMs right here, or do the triple of this. It's the same. If you can do a dual, you can figure out how to do a triple. You just need another YT. So yeah, anyways, again, this is Daniel, 417 OC Detailing. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.